Yeah, that's right. As you mentioned, I am standing inside the headquarters of IonQ. This is a publicly traded quantum computing startup. It's just across the street from the University of Maryland. Now, over on the campus, hundreds of quantum scientists are pushing the limits of this technology, which experts say is going to leapfrog today's so-called classical computers in raw calculating power. Now, the U.S. intelligence community does warn that quantum is one of the 5 technologies crucial to the 21st century, and they say China and other foreign countries are aggressively trying to steal these new discoveries that they're making at places just like this. And that means that the scientists here have an enormous technical and security challenge. The university's president says he tries to strike a balance between security and open academic research.
Security agencies like the FBI and others have alluded us to these issues where there has been espionage. And we do have to be careful about that. I think that's a reasonable expectations of university.
Now, here at IonQ, their quantum computer is already being used by customers from Google to Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs is working on algorithms on a quantum level that will help them understand financial risk modeling, which is fascinating and potentially transformative on its own. But they're also seeing interest here from outside the United States.
If we look at our website, about half the traffic is from China. Half.
From China.
Yep. And there people are busily probing and, trying to do various things, trying to get through it.
So the quantum computers here are real, but they are in their infancy. Now you can see one of the earliest generations is already on a display case here behind me. This one is the vacuum chamber of a computer that they built back in 2018. And to give you a sense of just how fast things are developing here, they tell me this entire unit can now be built smaller and small enough to be the size of a deck of cards. So they're already miniaturizing all of this stuff. Peter Chapman told me that one of the biggest challenges is going to be to find scientists who are able to program for these computers as they go ahead and build the software as well as this hardware. So that's one of the keys to all of this. Now let's get over to Kate Rooney, who's been looking at the investment side of all of this. Kate?
Hey, Eamon, thanks so much. So you talked about sort of the government side and spending there. The private sector in the U.S. thinks it can make up for lower government spending in quantum to gain an edge in this asset class and in this investment case. Equity investments in the space have exploded recently. 90% of all investments took place in just the past 3 years, and it's on track to top $1 billion for the first time this year. That's according to BCG. Investors compare where we are today in quantum to the 1960s in classical computing. For example, they're still figuring out what materials to use right now. And as a result, 80% of investments have gone into hardware. I'm told the hardware really needs to be built and tested before some of these software applications can really work. And there are only a handful of private startups and companies in the space. PsiQuantum, Rigetti, Seek is another one. IonQ recently went public, where Eamon is today. All of these are seen right now as M&A targets. But big tech is looking to build their own quantum computers before looking to buy. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, IBM are all competing in the space. Industrial companies as well are looking to get into the mix. You've got Honeywell in there. So what are the use cases? Well, similar to classical computing, it's starting with these massive supercomputers really used by universities and research labs to start, then on to some of the B2B or business-to-business applications. I'm told pharmaceuticals, healthcare, biotech, climate tech as well. We'll see some of the early applications for quantum, also finance. But it could be decades before there are any real consumer use cases. And eventually investors say quantum will touch everything we do. And finally, guys, it'll help power the metaverse, of course, which will need a lot of computing power.